Hi guys, I've got a paint by numbers product review for you today. Let's go in and have a look what it's all about. Show you what was in it. So this is how it came, everything in the little pieces. There was a couple little bags, some D-links to hang it up when you're ready to hang it up, and also you've got your brushes and your big canvas there as well. So I'll just open that up now. So the reason I wanted to do this video for you was to explain what they don't tell you in the kit. So obviously you can see there's no instructions. So what do I do? So first of all, my husband had to put the frame together. It wasn't sort of fitting in or slotting in properly, so he did a bit of sanding to get it to fit in properly, and then he's popped the canvas on there for me. I did actually find it a lot easier to do it on the canvas than I would have. I have done another one where I've done it without the frame, and it was actually harder to do. So you get your picture, you get your canvas, you get your pots of paint, and you get your brushes there. So the idea is that you come in with your paint and you fill in the pot number into the number that's on the canvas. Now there's a few things that I wanted to run through that they don't tell you. So first of all, how do you clean your brushes and how do you look after them so they last the whole painting? So by the end of the painting, the brushes were falling apart. There was a couple of bits and pieces of hairs missing. One of the brushes actually snapped because they are only made of a thin flimsy plastic, and they are only designed to do this one picture. So I think that if there was instructions on how to look after that brush, I think they would have lasted a little bit longer, and it would have been a little bit easier for me to figure out. So I sort of had to stumble through it a little bit myself and figure out sort of how to go with the paints and things like that. So the paints are very, very thick. So the first thought I had was, okay, well, it's supposed to be oil based, so I'll get some thinners or paint, cleaner. So I grabbed some thinners and I tried to clean off my brush, and it just goes all sticky on the bottom. So first thing is, it is not a thinners based oil. It must be a water based oil. I've never heard of an water based oil before, so it was quite different to anything that I've ever used. So in saying that, I found that being so thick, I did put about 4 or 5 drops of water in and mix it up with a toothpick and get it all nice and smooth and mix it through with a little bit of water, just to give it the consistency that you can actually paint with, because it comes really thick and it's really hard to lay down a paint that's thick with not that great brushes. So that was my first trick that I found. Second thing is that you need to clean your brush in between every few sections, because the brush gets clogged up with the paint and it's really hard to lay down the paint once it starts to dry in the brush. So because it is really, really quick drying, you do need to clean that brush very, very often. So have a tub of water and make sure you've got some paper towel there to wipe off your brush, because you won't be able to pick up the paint properly if that brush is wet either. So there's a few things to start with that I noticed straight away. So once you get your brushes and your paint sort of organized, the paint's a little bit easier to lay down, but they don't actually explain to you how that works either. So let's talk about where I started. So I started with the dark colors, and I do think that it actually helped me to see the picture come together, because a lot of it is dark shadow colors. So starting with the black and then moving on to a darker color after that, just to sort of fill in the bulk of that, actually felt a little bit like I was achieving something early on, whereas if I had have done it the lighter colors, it would have felt like it was taking forever. So do start with the darker colors, because then you've got a bit of a base to go on. Also too, once those colors are dry, you cannot take it off, but you can go over the top of the darker colors with the light colors, because they're nice and thick. If you put down the wrong color, or you've gone over a line or whatever, you can actually come back in over the top of that with a lighter color and you can't see it. You just need to do a nice thick layer to do that. So in saying that, you do need to put thick layers down, otherwise you'll be able to see the numbers underneath, and that's what you don't want to see. So having that nice thick paint helps you to fill over the top of the numbers. So if you have a lighter color, I would suggest going in with that lighter color, and if you can still see the numbers underneath, go over it again before you move on to the next color, because you'll get lost in, by the end of it, what colors that you actually used where. So that actually happened. I actually fixed up a lot of mine at the end, where some of the lines weren't quite as sharp as I wanted them, so I went back in and then I had to figure out which colors that I used in that spot, because obviously the number's been covered over now so you can't see. So I would suggest that if you do have some parts that aren't quite right when you finish a color, go back and finish them then, because then you've got that paint out already and you know what color that you used where. So one thing was that some sections didn't have color, so I did have to refer back to the picture a couple of times, because there was like a few misprinted numbers, or the numbers were covered over and I didn't realize that I hadn't gone quite far enough, or because some of the sections were quite large. So if I'd stopped the paint and then come